How to build a B2B brand. Welcome back to a fresh episode of Breaking B2B. I'm your host, Sam Dunning. And if you haven't yet, why not join thousands of B2B legends enjoying my unusual weekday emails for some lesser known B2B marketing SEO tips, as well as fresh podcast updates. Head over to breakingb2b.com and hit that newsletter tab. So join me today. I've got Celine Fosse. Celine is the CMO and co-founder over at Niimblr, and she's been growing B2B brands for 12 years. Celine, welcome. How are we?
Super nice to see you, Sam. Very excited to spend my Friday happy hour with you. It's 4 p.m. here in Copenhagen, so it is happy hour.
Oh, I should have brought a beer. just got a Diet Coke for now. I guess I'll have to do.
What a mistake.
There we go. So today we're going to be diving in exactly the importance of brand for B2B companies. We're talking about how it stacks up compared to other channels that B2B marketing execs are often forced to invest in, why B2B might be behind B2C when it comes to brand building, the importance of it, and how you can actually, a bit of a step-by-step of how you can put it into play for your B2B company. So with that, brand building, B2B, isn't that a load of fluff, Celine? Like, isn't branding just a logo and a tag on your website and a headline and job done, move on to the next marketing channel? Like, isn't that all we need to do?
Yeah, like a PowerPoint template, right? Yeah, no, obviously, I mean, this is a discussion that happens a lot more in B2B, thankfully, these days. Just look around, like winning in their categories, people that you hear about on LinkedIn, like from personal branding to other sorts of content. You tell me, what are the brands that are on top of your mind and that you see winning over time? And if build branding is not the source of it. You yourself, I have the feeling that in your services has a lot of brand building elements to it for a reason. So we can break this as well as we were breaking B2B here. So definitely. I mean, for me, it's a lot of common sense to talk about brand building, especially because I'm coming from an advertising and marketing background.
Right.
So before joining the B2B SaaS world 12 years ago, as you said, I worked for media agencies. I was based in New York City. And I worked with really large brands. And it was, the way that B2C has been so forward thinking and, how to win a market and how to stay relevant and on top of mind of your customers or prospects or future, even like community members. Yep. It's just to reverse engineer what it means to win. And when you want to create value for your customers in B2B as well, you actually have to do the work. It's not all about just throwing spaghettis on the wall, as we say, and you just do this tactic and this performance marketing tactic and, trying this and this ad. It's actually part of a much, much bigger job to be done, which is really most of it has branding elements to it. Yes.
Good way to start the discussion.
Thank you.
Are you tired of competitors ranking above you on Google, stealing traffic, leads, and mindshare from dream clients every time they're searching for your services or offers on Google? At Breaking B2B, we fix that with our unusual approach to SEO, content marketing, and websites. We craft B2B SEO strategies and websites for revenue, not vanity. Head over to breakingb2b.com to check our results, pricing, or to book a call with me. So with that, can you give us a quick summary? Because I've thrown a few buzzwords at you, and I think everyone has their own idea of what a brand means. But I'd love to hear your definition of what it means from a B2B standpoint.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, we all know that we want to bring value to our customers. And the way that we do it, especially when you deliver a service or a product in B2B, it's that you build a brand so that people can recognize you as being part of a specific category that solves a problem. So you need to be recognized. You need to be on top of mind. You also need to know how are you going to win in this category, and why will you bring value to a specific segment in your market. And based on that, you can really just roll out tactics. But before you're doing the branding work on, this is how we want to win, this is how we want people to situate ourselves in this market, and this is also how we want to be remembered for anyone who at some point will need to solve a specific challenge. This is all part of branding, but really it's a lot of strategic work to be done at first. And what we do, or what I have done with a lot of the B2B companies I have served, and when I usually actually come in a B2B company, it's when they're ready to mature, and then they realize that we've been able to keep the light on for a while with some performance tactics, but somehow we have reached a roadblock, and what do we do next? And then you realize that, all right, the branding element has not been thought through in a strategic way, where the entirety of the company, starting with the executive team to whoever is part of this piece of the puzzle, has not actually been given guidance on what does it mean to win when you want to take this product or this service to a market. So these are all branding elements. But also, Sam, the thing is, like, it's tricky because every company will define what branding means based on the long-term effect that they want to have, and also obviously having like short-term wins. So the absolute most important homework to do is to really define this internally, which is what I would think the role of the CMO is at first. Sit down, study your market, understand how you create value, and then define what brand building means. You mentioned to me a logo. Obviously, branding guidelines is one aspect of it. You want to have an identity that is recognized, but also your sense of humor, or the content that you produce to educate your users, to your personal brands out there. This is all something that you can decide and put together, but it is part of a plan. So that's usually when I come in, is like, all right, let's clean this up and kind of build the stepping stone to last a little longer in a specific category and market. Does that make sense?
That's brilliant. That's a lot to break down. And I like the fact that you've mentioned fundamentals, like being recognized for solving a specific problem, looking to win within your category, as well as a couple other points, which I want to dive to in a sec. Before we do, building a brand. So you mentioned things like CMO, getting involved with your exec team. So does that mean that brand building is only for established companies, i.e. companies that are growing at a decent rate? Maybe they're mid-market, maybe they're above, or is this applicable for newer businesses, aka startups or similar?
Absolutely applicable to everyone. And the earlier you actually get to it, the better. The thing is, you have to see it as brand building as planting seeds. So the earlier you plant seeds, the faster you're going to see the fruit of this. And when your performance marketing is on top of its game, and you combine this with a really good balance of brand building, that is where you can actually reach higher milestones year after year, because the market was ready. You have actually warmed them up. You have a space in your specific category. You are recognized for it, and you are preparing future prospects to convert faster to whenever you do performance marketing. So, I mean, I'm a founder now, and one of the first things we did is, first of all, we interviewed 100 prospects and users in just a few months to become the best student of our market. We have to be the best students of our market to understand what does it mean to win this market. And based on that, what are the tactics that we are going to apply to see short-term results. So now we're like, in just a few months, we have reached over 1,000 users. So for us, it was a milestone that we wanted to reach. But we also did the work. There was a job to be done to really understand strategically how we're going to focus our SEO effort, our ads effort, the content that we write, how much brand building are we going to do ourselves personally as founders. It is all interlinked. So I would definitely suggest you do it as early as possible and just look at the B2C brands. I remember being helping so many executives in the B2C sector, and there is actually no exception to starting with this. The only reason you would, as an advertising and marketing agency, get the budget to roll out something, it's because the work to be done, the strategic understanding of how you want to create value and how you're going to measure this internally is totally aligned. And that is what I'm trying to apply as much as possible in B2B and as early as possible.
Everything starts with customer research, yet so many B2B companies neglect it, especially in tech.
Especially in tech, yes. And, when you are at a different level of maturity, it's very difficult to sometimes prioritize it and realize that this is actually the only thing you need to be an expert at. Depending on if you have customer success or not, or if your sales team is even kind of creating patterns on what they see, you can just conduct interviews yourself. Like we've been doing 100 interviews, just the three of us.
That's
as
impressive
founders.
in such a short space of time.
Yeah, we've been really busy and really at it. And you know what? We've been loving it because it just defines everything that we do. It's like we have imagine this massive whiteboard of what winning means and how we're going to get there. And then we really have to dissect everything from what does our product roadmap needs to look like for us to get there? What features do we need to prioritize? So that's more in the software world, but also, how are competitors moving and how do we position ourselves against that? To what is the demand that people are going to start asking next? They may not even know it yet. So it's really like just putting this puzzle together. And to me, it's a perfect balance of obviously performance marketing, which I love. It's fast-paced. It gives you quick result. You can fail fast and then, grow faster from your learnings and try again. But the brand building element really, Sam, is like, it's the glue that ties it all together. Yeah, very passionate about that one.
Love it. Yeah. Love that foundational stuff. And for anyone that wants to check out any episodes specifically on customer research, then we've got 2 episodes with a guy called Ryan Paul Gibson, and all he does is B2B customer research. So those are worth a watch on YouTube or listen on the podcast. Right. Going back into what is brand, one of the first things you said, Celine, was you should be recognized for solving a problem. So I love that point. Tell us a bit more about why that is important and how that impacts brand.
Well, the customers that you reach, they have a totally different work to be done. They are busy with a lot of responsibilities and elements of their jobs that you probably have no idea fully about what they're dealing with every day. So the piece in their mindset that you need to reach need to be very crystal clear. So whenever they're ready to be in your market for a specific problem that they need to solve, you need to have been able to educate them so clearly that they actually don't want to spend more time thinking about it. They just want to execute. So your job is to make their job easier because you're just one small piece of all the things they actually need to accomplish on a daily basis. You're like, can see yourself as a small piece of an ecosystem that they have to have in order to make things run on their side. So how are you going to present yourself, situate yourself in a market that is competitive, but also in a way that you speak directly to what they need at the moment that they need it. So that's really is the beauty and consistency. I mean, repetition, and also try to be bold and creative. And I have yet to see a lot more B2B companies trying to have this emotional connection with their market, in the sense that, I mean, today you can utilize so many channels that are super personal. You can use your personal brand. You can use TikTok. You can do podcast. Obviously, you can do a lot more things than just like traditional marketing. So if you want to be on top of mind of your customers, knowing that they have a lot to think about, just connect with them in a way that is much more human and fun. Why not? So I would really encourage you as a B2B company to try to be braver, like a bit more bold. We could see more of that.
Just don't be as brave as me and start asking people on the street what they think makes a bad website,
I've
or
seen that.
or
I've
if
seen that.
people
It's
should hide
hilarious.
pricing on their websites and that kind of stuff. I think maybe I've
Hilarious.
taken it a bit too far with my latest LinkedIn shorts. But,
Oh, no, I'm all in for it. Go for it. I'm your biggest fan. So, yeah, really cool.
Good stuff. So when it comes to solving a problem, how do you recommend B2B companies kind of define or find rather, or discover problems that are juicy, that are bleeding neck for their prospects, or really expensive problems that they're kind of genuinely motivated to fix?
I mean, keep it simple. First of all, like, don't try to overcomplicate this. Either there is a missing link in what your customers are needing in the market that you can just fill the gap with, or you can decide to compete with someone in another, better, different way because, for example, they're only catering half of what your users really need. So I think just being, again, a better student of your market, understanding where companies are moving, and just not necessarily just follow the masses, but be more creative and think ahead of where is this actually going in the bigger picture. And then obviously you're going to fail a few times. You're going to try things. It's not going to work out. Sometimes you're going to launch things that, will land a little flat, and then you'll try again. It is not a guarantee that you will succeed immediately, but what the job to be done again here is really to try to think fast on how you can win and see that you are creating value, and then build upon that. So just be fast at failing so that you can be faster at winning.
Nice approach. Let's move on to winning in a category. We've spoken a little bit about this on the podcast before with a guy you might know called Pep Liar, founder of a company called Winter, does message testing for websites. So he came on and essentially told us about, if you're trying to, like, if you're a newer business or a startup company and you've got giants in your industry, rather than trying to take on those giants and do everything that they do, like, pick a super small segment. So let's say your competitors serve a whole range of industries. Pick one industry or one focused client or one market that they're neglecting or not doing that much in, and do everything you can to understand their world, like the problems, their motivations, like you said, their jobs to be done, and look to ultimately win in that tiny sector and then branch out from there. So is that what it means for you, or is it a bit different, looking at kind of how to win categories from a branding perspective?
So it is not easy, to be honest with you, to win in a category, especially depending on who you're competing against. Like, it could be monster of companies that are way ahead of the game with their, let's say, marketing muscles and years of experience. But there are ways to really make a mark and try to be at least on top of mind in those categories. And really, I mean, you did start this podcast by asking me if branding was fluff in B2B, but think about it. If you have to win in a category, what do you have to do the most? It's not going to be paid ads that will get you there. It really is the community you're building. It's going to be your SEO game. It's going to be what type of people your website attracts. Where are you actually creating content where it hurts, what people are looking for? How do you build trust? How do you build trust personally, but how do you build trust as a company? Because you always show up with the solution that they've been asking. So consistency in brand building, again, is a long-term game, but this is how you win at the end. So, keep your eyes on the end goal always, and try things, but try them with a very clear vision on this is where you want to go to. So if winning in a category is your absolute go-to winning strategy, then yes, look into brand building so that you can make much more noise and create an awareness that maybe your competitors haven't thought about yet. And again, it links back to how creative are you going to be about it? Don't copy them, just be the different one. So there are ways to really go back to the essence of what marketing and branding was. I kind of want to say in the Mad Men days, because, it was all about being super creative. Like, where is it in B2B that we have to actually come up with super bold campaigns? And I think this is going to be an advantage for a lot of companies.
How do you recommend that B2B companies do bold campaigns that are going to help them stand out, but at the same time are somewhat linked to their product, so it is actually relevant, so you are staying top of mind, but at the same time there is at least some reference to the product or the offer?
Well, it's a little bit like you interviewing people on the street, right? You thought, okay, I kind of want to make a wave out there and be a little different, and I want to connect with people in a fun way, but then they'll know exactly what kind of area I belong to. And that is the same. I mean, at the end of the day, you can sell B2B and try to pretend that you're selling business to a business, but really, if you don't get into people's heart, if you don't understand their psychology, and if you don't find creative ways to make these connections happen, like you do, just walking on the street and interviewing them, is going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I suppose it's easier for me because I'm a founder and I run the business, so I can essentially do what I want. Probably shouldn't do what I want most of the time, because most of that wouldn't be linked to revenue driving activities, but sometimes still do. But for, I guess, marketers tuning in, or even solo founders that might not have the luxury that I do, how do they kind of get this buy-in to do these kind of activities with the rest of their team, their exec team, or their leadership team?
Yeah, that's a problem I have seen a lot in B2B, in the sense that the marketing muscles was added way too late. And in some scenarios, a lot of scenarios, the executive team does not have a branding or marketing background. So very, focused on, the building the company, but not really thinking how to create a connection in the market. I would suggest that you start, like working with some freelancers or trying to build a brand yourself. Just keep it simple. I mean, you can have a TikTok channel. You can post funny reels on Instagram. You can actually have a webinar once in a while and just invite 10 people from your industry to speak freely about their problems. You can do a lot of things to be creative in a way that is very human and doesn't require massive budget. You just have to be consistent at it. You just have to do it in the sense that you mean it in the long run. Like, don't do it for 3 months and then give up because there has been a change in your team or so forth. Just make sure that what you do creates value over time. And if you don't have a specific marketing person in-house to lead this, you can, work with an agency, or you can even pick someone from a team that has more of a outgoing personality and wants to try something outside of their regular responsibility. It works as well.
How do you check if these activities are actually making impact?
Absolutely great question. You have to define first what impacts means. You can't just do it and then decide, let's find out. No, you have to really, as part of the job to be done that I talked about with the strategy, it's all the same piece of the puzzle. If you want to win and if you want to build a brand, you need to define what it means. And it can mean a lot of things to a lot of companies. It could be that we want to have as much traffic on our website, or we want to use humor in a different way, or we want to build a community of X amount of people, or we want to have X amount of branded search. I mean, it can be so many things that you absolutely have to define before you do it. Otherwise, you're just executing in the dark, and that's exactly the recipe to give up on branding. So you don't want to do that. You want to make branding a piece of your strategy so that it supports your marketing efforts, it supports your sales efforts, and it has its KPIs, it has its metrics on its own. But the thing is, it's kind of fluid depending on what type of company and what type of teams you have, how you want to define it. But as long as you define it, you're good.
I feel like it's quite a difficult one for marketers, like you said earlier, depending on whether leadership buy in. I think if you're going to do it, like you said, it's important to define what are the key metrics that we want to get on the back end out of this, i.e. we're doing it for 6 months, we're doing this exercise for 12 months, and have a hypothesis on what will happen in an ideal situation to
Exactly.
make these plays keep going and keep the resource and keep the investment going. But I feel like it's sometimes a crutch for marketers to lean on if something doesn't go well. It's okay, we did it for brand, when the C-suite might be like, well, that hasn't driven demos for like 6 months, and they're leaning on the brand crutch. Like, what's your response there?
Yeah, it used to be very much like that, actually. But today, honestly, you can measure so many things, including brand elements. So I think that, as a marketeer, you just have to evolve and learn also yourself. Like, how are you going to best educate your team internally? Because how do you want to create value externally and explain what you do to create value if you can't even agree internally of what good looks like? So branding is an element to that. You do have to evolve. You do have to do your homework. There are so many ways that you can agree to define a brand, but you also need to make sure that the company you step into is ready to have these kind of conversations. I mean, sometimes I speak to CEOs and board and they will tell me, we haven't done branding yet. And I'm thinking, okay, do you have some sort of positioning? Do you know your competitors? Do you have a website that follows brand guidelines? Okay, so you do have some branding if you have some of these elements. You just didn't know it was that. You just thought it was a given. Okay, let's put some metrics on what good looks like so that we can expand on that. What does it mean to have a branded website? What do you want to achieve out of it? Okay, how do you measure that? What do we want to increase on a quarterly basis based on that? Okay, what type of performance marketing do we need to do to balance the fact that we want our brand value to grow while our revenue metrics also follow that? So you've got to have these conversations and kind of reverse the logic on, okay, this is what you want, this is how you want to win on the short term, but then that means we need to do that on the long term. It's also going to make you make such better decisions on who you want to hire to do this and why, and what budget do you really need. Do you really need just a kind of random budget, or is this a budget that is very thought through? It just brings so much logic when you have these conversations. But again, I think a lot of marketeers don't actually enter companies with, interviewing both ways and making sure that the company is ready for that. And to me, that's something that is changing a bit more, thankfully. So I think we're going in the right direction, but there is still some work to be done.
Great point. I think a lot of B2B marketers need to be able to take a lot more accountability. Yeah. And like you said, you can't just blame the CEO or the exec team for not understanding marketing or branding. It's your responsibility as a marketer going in to clearly define, like, this is the role that I want to be doing, and this is the impact I propose to have on the business, like in the interview stage. And if that company isn't going to be a good match for where you see your strengths and what you want to bring to the table, it's a brilliant point. That why are you working there? Like, what's the point? And I love
exactly. Let's just take SEO as an example, which I know you're very fond of. That's always a topic of conversation that is such an eye-opener to startup scale-ups that I join, where I'm thinking, do you actually understand what SEO does in the long run? And do you know what it takes to build this? Do you know actually what you have to commit to in order to get this done? and what it will actually contribute to in your pipeline in the future. And when you really put the educational piece together, people look at you and they're like, why haven't we done this earlier? And I'm like, exactly. It's just that you didn't know we didn't translate this in your world.
Yeah. Or either you do explain it in a way that those folks will understand. You say, look, this is in example with SEO, like if we take the problem situation, i.e. when we search for what you do, your services, your offer, we compare you to alternatives on Google, competitors are above you, stealing that traffic, stealing inbound leads 24/7 to your website. If you explain the problems, the impact and the outcomes, and the execs team still don't get it, like move on, like you're banging your head against a brick wall.
Exactly. Then you know that this is not a fit, or something needs to happen, or you need to be okay not to be okay with it. And that's a choice.
For sure.
So
with that in mind, we touched on it then. How does building a brand or allocating a resource or cash or budget to a brand stack up against other channels, be it events, trade shows, influencer marketing, SEO, partnerships, plays, or any other go-to-market motion that B2B orgs are taking?
Well, why does it have to stack up? It's a perfect balance. It works together. It's an exercise to be done so that it completes each other. That's how I see it, at least. There is no competition. It's why we talk about marketing and sales alignment so much these days. It's exactly for that reason. It's because people realize that, oh, we are truly partners here. Like the branding element, the marketing element, obviously the revenue element, and product follows along. So everything is part of a bigger family. So it's not really competing what you want to stack on top of of one another. It's more looking at your revenue touch points, where you create the most value as well. Put this into a specific logic of what's going to get you there fast, but also long term, and make sure that your fast tactics will convert faster, or like with a higher ratio. And then decide based on that to have a logic on how you're going to allocate budget, because it is linked directly to a hypothesis that you've made that we are okay spending X amount of budget in this paid campaign, because we believe that with the branding elements that we've done before, the workshops, everything that, is linked to your awareness, how much people are ready for this, it's going to be a better success. So I think it's really just a work to be done in harmony instead of competing, because you can't really do one without the other. I mean, you can, but then you may actually reach a point where you're hitting a wall because you don't know how to grow faster or even continue growing. And that's a problem.
Can you still grow to a decent rate without worrying about brand? I don't know, founders, tech marketers that want to rush to hit their first $1 million annual recurring revenue or 2 million. Is it still doable?
I mean, the thing about not doing branding is that you're kind of losing the masses of people that exponentially make you convert. So I think you can, if you have huge marketing dollars, or if you've had like investments from VCs and you are okay to just burn that. But again, it's not sustainable, and it is definitely not something that will make you win over time. So if you're in it for just a few years, go ahead. But if you're really into this for the long term and you want to gain market share to an exponential level, you need to bring in the masses.
It's a lot of it about gaining mind share. So going back to the original point, so when someone thinks of your company name, they think they do this, i.e. Gong, they do call recordings, or they solve this problem, they help me fix this. If I'm struggling with this, they do that. Like, is that the number one outcome that B2B companies should be thinking of, or there's kind of more outcomes than that, like from a really high level?
Yes, so I think it is definitely just, pick 3 top things that you absolutely want to be on top of mind for your market. Keep it simple for them to just always recognize that and be consistent. I mean, sometimes I have conversations with people who are not in marketing and telling me, we've been talking about this for a while. I'm like, yeah, we're going to be talking about this forever. We are never going to not talk about this, because this is exactly what we do. And we need to repeat this in so many different forms and ways, and add some fun, and then be more serious and add an educational piece. But literally what we do is that we do talk about these three things all the time. And somehow that's something that a lot of people can't really compute, because they're thinking, but we're just repeating ourselves. I'm like, that's how you win.
It's almost like posting on LinkedIn. So I'm posting on LinkedIn almost about SEO every day. Pretty much saying the same thing in a different way, or from a different point of view, from a different problem stance, from a customer question, from a query, from a new idea, from a video standpoint, from asking the public, whatever. But I think sometimes in our own heads, we think we're saying it too much, when in really, take LinkedIn as an example, no one gives a SHIT, because they're just scrolling the feed and just thinking like, oh, this person again. Yeah. And eventually, like after seeing you for time, ages and ages and ages, they might start remembering what you do. But I think sometimes marketers and founders get stuck in their own head, thinking they're saying it too much, when really no one's got the time to actually care. So you've got to keep repeating the message.
Yes, absolutely. And then people are going to resonate with it in a different way. It's actually going to really land, based on the format that you deliver it and how much they see it. There is no magic tricks. I mean, you have to be exposed to something for so long. I mean, look at the B2C brands that we love. We love them because they're super consistent and they have the simplest message. And we can relate to that. And we know that this is something I know. And so I'm going to go buy those Nike or whatever brand you love, because consistency. And it's been the name of the game forever in B2C. And I'm thinking, B2B, keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate this corporate language and all things that, does it even make sense? Simple, consistency, new forms of doing it, try a lot of tactics, fail, and try others, make sure that you create some stickiness. But yeah, at the end of the day, it really is that this is your three things you have to stick with. And you're going to be talking about this basically the entire time you have this job. That's how it is.
Yeah. Don't get me started on B2B companies and overcomplicating their websites, especially their headlines and their homepage hero areas. Like some of the B2B sites headlines are just painful, full of jargon, confusing language that their target clients would never say. And
have you done this? Like, I have actually copy paste something from a B2B website and put it in ChatGPT and be like, what does this mean in human language?
Yeah.
Like, what is the value for me in these words? Like, I'm not a robot.
Like 90% of tech or SaaS companies are going to 20x my revenue and turbocharge my business with whatever that means. Like no relevance to their specific offer, the problem they fix, or their differentiator in the market that people actually care about. Just talking random jargon.
But also have a little fun. I mean, again, going back to everything else, it's like, be braver, just be bolder. And that's also another decision that for some reason is just so hard for B2B company to be okay with it. It's like, no. We're so serious. We cater to businesses, but, just try to be lighter, use humor or whatever tone works for your market. It is going to create connections that you have never seen before. And people want to follow you because they're entertained and they find something attractive in the way that you communicate your message. And that's the beauty of marketing as well.
Exactly. It's a great point. It's probably why a lot of smart B2B tech brands, especially now, are getting involved in like LinkedIn influencer marketing, like finding folks that have a strong audience in their ICP and then just paying those guys to create entertaining videos that are slightly tied back to the product they offer. Like, it's a super smart move. Why not harness that audience of someone that's already creating funny stuff in their space that's relevant to their niche and their ICP?
Absolutely.
Like they should be doing it years ago. Like B2C
Absolutely.
is so much further forward on that
but
front.
Look, I mean, Sam, we don't really have any excuses in B2B anymore because the channels are there. Like you mentioned, the influencer marketing, you have all the social media, you can do so much with content. I mean, the creator economy, hello, anybody can actually host in like anything that they want that is relevant.
Yeah.
It's just about like just being brave to take that step and do it with consistency. Yeah. So I encourage everyone who's listening to just, go to work on Monday morning and think, how brave am I going to be today?
Let's wrap up with a few kind of actionable tips. So when it comes to, for anyone that's been tuning in thinking, I want to get started in this brand building magic, you said a bit earlier, one of the first things that you should nail down is think about the impact. So clearly define exactly what you want to get out of the exercise, i.e. do you want to improve website traffic? Is there another measurable outcome that we want as a part of this? So is that the very first step, that you should kind of define what KPIs or what metrics that you want as a result of?
I mean, first you have to have the buy-in internally that you're doing this for a specific reason, and then you know how you want to measure it. So once you know how to measure it, you can just come up with hypotheses on what you think is going to work when you roll out your message in different ways. And then where do you want to allocate budget? Do you want to be super risky, or do you want to take like baby steps, but a lot of them? So these are discussions that you have to take based on like, testing the water of what company you actually work with and how willing are they to try something new and take a risk, especially budget-wise.
Got it. Okay. So go in with define the impact, go in with some kind of hypothesis. And does that involve like, I don't know, we're going to give this 6 months, we're going to give this 12 months, we're going to give this 24 months, we're going to use these channels, and we predict by certain milestones and certain time or cash investment that we expect, I don't know, this much. We expect our branded search to ramp up by this, or this website traffic to go by this, or when people are filling out our website demo requests, we expect like an uptick in how did you hear about us through various channels. Is that the kind of stuff we should be hypothesizing, or is there a bit more to it?
Yeah, absolutely. So putting a time horizon to things is part of your hypothesis. Like I will always start with like a 12-month cycle, especially when there are a lot of brand building elements, because that's what takes the most time to really see its performance. And then within these 12 months, I will say, all right, like if we do a paid campaign, then we will want to see how much it converts literally weekly and kind of learn from it, like what message is resonating and so forth. So you have a bit of a longer approach, and then you break it down into your quarters, your month, so that your team, because leadership is a big part of it, like how do you actually get people to concentrate and be responsible for specific things at a specific time? You just tell them what they're expected to do and what the outcome should be in a time horizon. So the time horizon is super important. You do have to have the buy-in of this internally as well.
Got it. What do you do once you nail down all that stuff?
You continue, you add to it. You get bolder, you want to gain more market share. Maybe you think about repositioning. You want to, maybe if you are into software, maybe you are ready now to launch a new product. You just build on top of it. You use the same logic, but once you feel like you've got something that is running almost automatically, even though it's not, but you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you have a good cadence and you can see that it's progressing according to plan and a good logic. Then you add to it, and then you add to it again, and then you add to it again until you reach winning. And it could be winning in a category.
I want to reach winning. Sounds good.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Always working to that milestone. Are there any mistakes that we should look to avoid if we're trying to build a brand?
Just don't wait. Don't wait. Don't, postpone this for later when we're bigger, when we have, like, really educate yourself on what brand building means and how you can actually start. We are 3 founders at Niimblr. We are heavily brand building. We're 3 people literally doing everything from coding to product experience to marketing to partnership, and we're doing brand building. So, just choose the elements that are okay to integrate in your day-to-day and start today. Just do it, but do it consistently.
Love it. Celine, with that, I want to thank you very much for giving us a B2B branding masterclass. Very much appreciate the time, the banter, and the back and forth. So please do tell us more about how everyone tuning in can learn more about Niimblr, yourself, and any way you want to send the audience.
My pleasure. I mean, I love talking about that stuff, and I've been helping so many founders, CEOs, VCs, kind of seeing the light in this. Connect with me on LinkedIn and check out the Niimblr website if you're looking for a graphical review. And I'm super happy to connect with new people and just share my story and help out. So just reach out.
Perfect. We'll put all of those links in the show notes below. And with that, thanks once again, Celine. Really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you.
No worries. Go ahead.
Happy Friday for our happy hour today.
Oh yeah, next time we'll have to do a V2. Maybe I'll come your way and have a few beers. That would always be enjoyable. But appreciate you all tuning in. As always, if you want to catch more no BS actionable B2B marketing episodes, head over to breakingb2b.com, and we shall catch you on the next one.
Thank you so much, Sam. Take care.